to tonight's special report on the Bears stadium plans. I'm Paris Schutz. Well, after this evening, we'll have a better idea of what the team looks like on the field. But do we know any more about where their future field will be and when it might be ready? Tonight, we bring you the latest in the years-long quest to build a new Bears stadium in northwest suburban Arlington Heights. It's a story where the political football has been advanced some, but it's still yards away from pay dirt. The story begins on January 12, 2023, when the Chicago Bears welcomed Kevin Warren as their next CEO, long after they had secured the former Arlington Park racetrack for a future stadium. Warren quickly had some different plans.
We have the foresight, we have the wisdom, we have the vision to do big things.
CEO Kevin Warren had hoped the Bears would do big things on Chicago's Lakefront. In April 2024, the team unveiled those ambitious plans to build a dome stadium in the South Lot while turning current Soldier Field into a park. There was a catch. They needed state taxpayers to fork over $2 billion to make it happen. Mayor Brandon Johnson was on board, but few other elected officials were.
Look, I'm a Bears fan. I want to be clear, and I want them to win, and I want them to have a great place to play. The problem is that the offer that they've made just isn't one that I think the taxpayers are interested in getting engaged in.
Add to that the Lakefront Protection Ordinance, which prohibits private development. Ask George Lucas how his famed Lucas Museum proposal fared. But Warren stayed steadfast, believing politicians would come around.
It's a process, and I believe that we're moving forward, and I trust our elected officials, and I feel that at some point in time we'll get something worked out.
But the months progressed, elections came and went, and still no bite from lawmakers. Earlier this year, another plan emerged, this one by the developers of the land that once housed Michael Reese Hospital. What about a lakefront stadium in Bronzeville that could catalyze economic development there? A notion that got a different reaction from top Springfield legislators.
If they chose a site like Michael Reese, which that's a neighborhood, Bronzeville, that can certainly use some great economic development, that's a different conversation. The state, has a road fund that we could probably help with building roadways or improving the roadways around the area. That's a totally different conversation than what's being asked right now.
But Warren remained cool to the site, believing it would be too costly to prepare for a stadium. And then in April of this year, Warren shifts his focus back to the Arlington Park site.
To be able to find 326 acres that close to a wonderful city is difficult to do. I don't know if it exists anywhere in the country.
And he scrapped plans for a taxpayer handout, instead pushing legislation that allows the team to save big on property taxes by negotiating a set rate with the community for years into the future.
We're not trying to avoid paying taxes. We absolutely will pay taxes, but we want to just have certainty.
But still the same refrain from Springfield, especially Chicago-based lawmakers who don't want to vote to help the team leave Soldier Field.
We are not spending much time talking about where the Bears should be playing football and whether or not the state of Illinois should be writing a check to them.
And so the plans remain in limbo. A new stadium is seemingly still out of reach as another Bears Super Bowl trophy. And now we're joined by Justin Laurence, reporter for Crain Chicago Business, who's been following this for many years. Justin, thanks for talking to us. I want to start by reading off a statement that the Bears just sent us. Quote, "We are making progress toward building a world-class enclosed stadium and entertainment district in Arlington Heights. The Arlington Park site is the only Cook County location that is feasible, and our plan to finance a new state-of-the-art stadium requires $0 state dollars for its construction." And they go on to talk about the economic boost that this will provide us. Justin, you've heard them talk about shovels in the ground before the end of the year, but are your sources telling you they can get this legislation in the veto session?
No, yeah, as long as they say they do need state legislation to approve, tax certainty or tax relief is what they want, and potentially infrastructure improvements, then construction this year is really far-fetched. We've spoken about before this. There's really no appetite right now in Springfield to approve this kind of thing. It's not at the top of the list, right? There's a mass transit fix and potential federal grants federal cuts that they have to sort out. So this is not a top priority, and I don't get the sense that it is, I guess, moved up the queue in the few months since we last spoke.
At the same time, assuming that at some point they'll address this, maybe in the spring session, what would this mean for the Bears in terms of cost savings over many, many years?
Well, we don't know. I mean, they what they are seeking essentially is some level of payment lower than what they normally would have to pay through the normal property tax assessment, and that would have to be negotiated. So we don't know exactly what it would provide, but they wouldn't be seeking it if it wasn't worth tens of millions. If it wasn't lucrative, and wasn't that I guess that last bridge between what they're putting in and what they what it takes to build this thing. So while they say it doesn't cost state taxpayers anything towards construction, it would they would receive property tax subsidies from the local municipalities.
Is it fair to say at this point that Chicago and a city site, especially on the lakefront, is totally out of the picture?
I would hedge on saying totally, right? It's certainly not on the horizon. It's not what they're working towards. But remember, they went to Arlington Heights and then pivoted back to the city for almost a year. So until, as they say, until they're moving dirt, I would say that everything has to be on the table, including, re-upping their lease at Soldier Field potentially. But they would very much like to say that they're only focused on Arlington Heights and that's full speed ahead. But right, as long as they need state help to do it, it's not fully in their control.
What happens to Soldier Field, assuming that they do move out eventually, and hotel tax money is backing these bonds that are still worth $100 million that have to be paid off? So what happens if they lose their main tenant?
Well, yeah, and remember they're losing the Chicago Fire as well, who are planning to build their own new stadium in the city. It's somewhat uncertain. Like you said, it's important to note the sales of Bears tickets or activity at Soldier Field is not necessary to pay off the bonds that renovated Soldier Field. That's the hotel tax. But I don't know. I mean, the city has explored this in the past. Potentially being it would still be a music venue, right? Despite the criticism of Soldier Field and how hard it is to access there, it still continues to see, Taylor Swift and Beyonce coming in every year. So I don't think that would change. And then maybe potentially more, I don't know, college football games or world soccer matches. But it would be difficult. It would be a big blow to Soldier Field and the Park District, more importantly, if they did lose the Bears.
And now we're joined by Representative Mary Beth Canty, a Democrat who represents Arlington Heights and the sponsor of the legislation that we've been talking about all throughout this show. Representative Canty, thanks for talking with us. So in simple terms, what would this legislation allow mega projects like the Bears to do?
So this legislation, which would apply to every area in the state of Illinois, would allow the local organizations, the school districts, the municipalities, the park districts, to have control over development and property taxes in their area so that they can, if they wish, have property tax certainty. It'll spur development, it'll spur jobs if the local communities believe that this is in their best interest.
What does it stop? I posed this question to the mayor of Arlington Heights. What's to stop an organization like the Bears from coming to the negotiating table and say, you know what, $1, take it or leave it?
So I think that our communities are smarter than that. I think they're better than that. And I don't see how that would work in anyone's benefit. The whole point of this is with TIF districts, we lock up all of these property taxes. It creates a hardship for our school districts and everyone else. So the point of this is to get that certainty and budgetability for the local taxing bodies related to property taxes. And if somebody comes in and offers you a bad deal, that's when you have to say no.
There are two sides to negotiation, as the bill sort of spells out.
Exactly.
The Bears president has talked about getting this passed in the veto session, and that's a tough ask because it's a 3/5 majority that you need to get. Is that a possibility, or is it more realistic to wait until the spring?
You know, I really look to our legislative leaders in that regard, and they set our agenda for what's going to happen in the veto session. So the governor, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, and I know that they are also looking at some of the really critical and time-sensitive issues that we also have to deal with as a legislature, like public transportation. So, you know, I will follow their lead on the timing of this one because it's critical that we get it right, not to get it fast.
And, you know, in addition to this legislation, there will be a lot of infrastructure work that will be needed. Will the state road fund perhaps help out with some of those things? And do we know what some of those specific needs will be?
I think there is a lot of conversation that has to go on, like there would be with any development of this size. There's always going to be infrastructure needs, whether you're talking about a giant Target or you're talking about a multi-use development with hotels and condos and et cetera. So I think those conversations are ongoing, and I don't know that they know in the local communities or even the Bears know exactly what they're going to need to finish the development of this property.
But would there be additional infrastructure help from the state?
I can't speak to that. It's far too early to speak as to that.
And when we come back, the political battle heats up. What a lawmaker and stadium experts say the Bears need to do to get this project across the goal line. Welcome back. Last month, we spoke with sports business consultant Mark Gannis and State Representative Cam Buckner, a Democrat who represents the district that houses Soldier Field. They told me what they think the Bears can do to reverse their fortunes in Springfield and get that new project done. Cam Buckner, you made no secret about the fact you don't like this bill the Bears are asking for, but will it have the votes to go in the veto session?
I don't believe so. I don't think that the Bears have done the legwork to be able to get the requisite number of votes in the House or the Senate. People have the same concerns that I've voiced publicly. And one of those concerns is that there are people across the state of Illinois who want property tax relief for their homes, for their families, but they don't get to cut to the front of the line like the Bears have insinuated they are trying to do. And so I think there are more conversations that need to be had, and hopefully we can have those conversations in public.
All right, Mark Gannis, the Bears ask in Springfield, is this something that lawmakers should go along with? Property tax certainty, essentially getting them to sort of negotiate their property tax levels with the town.
Yeah, you know, what the Bears have put on the table is actually an extraordinarily favorable deal for the state of Illinois, for Cook County, frankly, even for the city of Chicago. They will pay for the entirety of the $4 billion or so stadium. They've already paid for the land. As I understand it, they will pay more property tax than the old Arlington Heights racetrack has paid over the years. And so, you know, this is really a one-sided deal in favor of the state, in favor of the county, and in many ways in favor for the city, because the city doesn't have to put up any money, but will get a lot of the economic value associated with the new Dome Stadium in the Chicago market. That having been said, Cam's not wrong about that. You have to come and make the case. That really is one of the important things that needs to be done here. You need to go down to Springfield. You need to show your face. This is not unusual. This is a very good story the Bears have to tell. They need to go down there. George McCaskey, Kevin Warren, their team need to go down there and need to state the case publicly. They have an excellent story to tell. By comparison with other stadiums around the country, this is one of the best deals the public sector will have received anywhere in the country.
All right, well, Representative Buckner, we just heard you explain why you don't think it's one of those good deals. So if Chairman McCaskey comes down there, what do you think you want to hear from him that might change your mind?
Well, I'll say this. First off, in the last 40 seconds, Mark Gannis just messaged this better than the Bears have in the last 3 years. They have had a hard time telling this story, which is part of the problem. Now, while there are some parts of what Mark said that I don't agree with, including the fact that, you know, I don't know if it's a good deal for Chicago, because Chicago's still left holding the bag on $400 million of an old Soldier Field renovation. The state property tax has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. So does that mean you tax folks more in Arlington Heights on something else? Does that mean that the state comes in to rescue Arlington Heights if the property tax levies aren't what they're supposed to be? There's some questions there. But yes, I think this requires, obviously Kevin Warren has had some conversations with the legislature, but also, once again, George McCaskey, the owner of this team. And in some of my conversations, I've reminded folks that, last year, Jerry Reinsdorf found his way in his busy schedule to come down to Springfield to have a conversation. That's what we want. We want to hear from them, and we want to hear what their plan is. And if they can frame it the way that Mark framed it, maybe they'll find some people who can convert to their side.
All right. Well, if George McCaskey's listening, maybe he wants to put you on retainer here, Mark. But, I mean, the argument Cam made in the Tribune is that if you're going to cut a deal on property taxes, the money's got to come from somewhere. And it means schools might not have the same level of property tax money that they would have, or other forms of government?
Well, it really is not the case. The land, Arlington Heights, Arlington Racetrack, paid property taxes for many years. So as I understand it, what the Bears would be paying is significantly higher than what Arlington Racetrack had paid for all its many years of operation. Second, as it relates to stadiums, stadiums really don't add any school children to the enrollments of local schools. They're there for the public assembly activities, not for people. People don't live in the stadiums. You don't have families living in the stadiums, so that doesn't add to it. But there are other factors, and Cam is right. They need to be brought forward. There needs to be a full discussion about the kind of infrastructure that would be needed from the state, how that would benefit the entire region and not just the Bears project out there, how it would help the development of the area, how it would help the other residents of the area, how it helps Cook County, how the stadium out in Arlington Heights can be a benefit to the city of Chicago. They're talking about building a domed stadium that's going to have major national and international events. I assure you, the people coming in for those events are not going to be staying in Arlington Heights. They're going to be staying in downtown Chicago. The attraction, the appeal is Chicago, the hotels, the restaurants, the culture. And so they need to make that case and present it to Cam and his colleagues so that they can understand and hear how beneficial this all is to the state, to the county, and to the city.
And even if they make that case, Representative Buckner, by the veto session, where they're going to need 3/5 majority to pass. I mean, it becomes much harder to pass a bill in the fall. You've got other things on your agenda. You've got a transit bill. You've got CPS, which we're going to hear from in a bit, asking for billions more. Are you going to have time to listen to the Bears?
Well, that's part of this conversation, right? I think it's very tough for any politician, especially during an upcoming election year, to have a conversation about cutting taxes for a professional sports franchise that is, by the way, worth $8.8 billion when we've got to fund transit to the tune of $1.5 billion, where CPS says that they need $2 billion, where we are still waiting to see what happens in Washington with the Trump administration, and if we have to make any tweaks to the budget, right? These are things that are super important to the people of Illinois. And so in order to frame this, we need to hear from them why this is so important to happen right now. I'll also say, I know that stadiums are not where kids go to school, but the Bears have said that this is going to be an economic boon for the entire area because this is an entertainment district. They're talking about hotels and restaurants and things that will add more stress on police, fire, libraries in the Arlington Heights area. That money will have to come from somewhere. This is not magic math. We got to figure out what the real numbers are.
Mark Gannis, looking back, as I mentioned, Kevin Warren's been on the job for 2 years, and I went on the Score Sports Radio this afternoon saying, based on my reporting over this, there have been clearly some missteps here. Do you agree with that? That perhaps this could have been handled in a different way, and the Bears could have that stadium well underway at this point?
Kevin made the judgment to give the city of Chicago and Mayor Johnson a full opportunity, full good faith opportunity to be able to put together a deal that would keep the team in a new stadium within the city of Chicago. Didn't materialize. Now, the argument I would make is I would have asked for something in exchange for that good faith opportunity had I been in Kevin's shoes. I would have said, listen, Mayor, we're going to be working with you. We're going to spend the time and the money and the extra cost of not doing construction for 2 years. And that's a big cost these days. But if you can't deliver to us a stadium deal that is reasonable, we'll pay for the whole building, but you help us get the rest of it done, then you have to be supportive of us going to our second option. I would have asked for that at the front end. I think Kevin should have also. That would be a misstep in my view.
And it seems like just like several years ago or decades ago with the renovation of Soldier Field, both sides kind of dropped the ball here a little bit. But at the end of the day, there will be some kind of deal. We know that. And Mark Gannis, State Representative Cam Buckner, thank you both for being here. And when we come back, 326 acres, $200 million, and a cloud of dust. Inside the massive property the Bears hope to call home. Welcome back. Arlington Heights Mayor Jim Tinaglia envisions quite a future for his community. Sunday tailgates, happy fans, and championship football. But a lot of details have yet to be resolved before any of that can happen.
Imagine hopping on the Metra downtown and getting off a mere steps from the stadium. It's one of the big selling points for the Arlington Heights site, Tinaglia says.
This train is going to make an impact like no other stadium, no other facility in the United States.
But even Tinaglia admits there's a long way to go before any dirt can move.
We don't have a site plan that is been presented that is approvable. We don't know exactly where the stadium is going to end up when it's all said and done, and we don't know about all of the other pieces of the puzzle that will be a part of this development.
Other pieces of the puzzle, how to move all that traffic off of Highway 53. And what about the train tracks that run across the north side of the site? The state will have to figure out a way to move tens of thousands of cars across them via either a tunnel or an overpass. Then construction crews can finally go to work.
This is probably more than a decade worth of development and growth once it gets started. But initially, there's probably certain pieces of the puzzle that have to happen and want to happen right away.
Tinaglia admits it's very unlikely the Bears will be getting favorable legislation from Springfield before the end of the year. Specifically, a package that would allow them to negotiate property tax rates with the village years into the future, before anything is even built. It's something Bears CEO Kevin Warren says must happen before the project begins.
The Bears are not looking for something 0.000%. They want to pay their fair share, and I respect them for that. We agree that they should get some sort of a understanding.
And he says the rewards will be well worth it. Economic development in the billions, tax revenue, temporary and permanent jobs, and a major attraction within the footprint of a once great racing track. A half-an-hour train ride from the Loop.
And that's it for our special report on the Bears stadium plans. Hope you enjoy this season and bear down.